working with clients, I like to look at the entire funnel. So how many downloads do you get per day? How many trial activations do you get? What is the breakdown between yearly, monthly, quarterly, whatever their plans are? And then how many of the trial activations turn into paying customers? And so I'm kind of looking at that first and foremost, and then kind of figuring out, okay, there's a gap here. There's a gap here according to industry standards. What's the best process that you found to be activating users to get them to either use it or activate that trial?
Good question. So the very first thing to bear in mind with activation is, again, understanding your customer. And so it really depends on what your ads are to be able to onboard them properly and activate them properly too. And and every step of the funnel. So when we think about the ads, we should be also thinking about what does the App Store listing or the Play Store listing say too, to help them be activated and help them be educated coming into the product. I always spend a lot of time making sure people understand the App Store listing, including going out onto the street and showing people the App Store listing and saying, what do you think this app does? To try and understand how much people comprehend. We give them a comprehension score and then work on building that up so that people can understand the app straight away in the messaging that we're using. In terms of, post install, what are we doing? We're making sure that, again, this message is continued throughout the onboarding. There are a bunch of tips and tricks that you can do, like with that kind of initial download and onboarding flow from your ads, especially where since September-ish, you can now link your ads with custom product pages. Let's say you're working on a radio app, like a radio app or a podcasting app. You can have a product page listing about a specific channel or about a specific artist or about a specific topic, and then bring people in, deep link that through to an onboarding flow which is about that specific topic, opening into specific content, all within the same app. That gives us a lot of flexibility with the onboarding. But in terms of someone's created an account, maybe they've started to use the app or they haven't started to use the app, how do we get them to that point? So in terms of activation, you've probably heard, Steve, like hard active and soft active and things like that thrown around. Lots of people think hard active is like, okay, now they've purchased or now they've started using it, but how do we actually measure that? So there's a core action that someone can do in your app. Let's say it's a streaming service, the core action could be watching something or listening to a song or reading a piece of content or educating themselves in some way.
When launching an MVP, the main concern is how to interact with clients with limited features. Any tips on that? How to optimize funnel at that time? When you're so early, maybe you feel like you have limited features.
It really depends on what exactly we're trying to optimize. The very first thing is just understanding the customers. We shouldn't be thinking all the time of how does this app work? How do you interact with this app? It's when it's very early, it should all be, why are you interacting with this app? What are you trying to get from this app? What are you trying to learn? What have been your alternate solutions? What did you do instead? If this went away, what would you do now? And understanding these things will help us understand what we should be building. Look for trends across people's psychology and their desired outcomes and needs, and build for that first if it's super early, and then how you would apply that to optimizing the funnel. All of that information that you get from those conversations goes into the onboarding flows, the messages that you're sending there, the email, the copy that you're writing in there, your ads as well, to bring people in further.
If you feel like you built a good app, that there's a real need in the market for this, app downloads are coming in hot. They're looking at your app store presence. They're looking at your screenshots. They're making sure that you're valuable enough to be on my phone, on their phone. So they're coming in hot. I'm not concerned. I would do a hard paywall and I would see what that activation rate is. Hard paywall, it just means there's no X on the paywall, either get out or sign up for a trial, right? And I want to test that, because if you have limited features, then people will cancel quickly. And then you know that you have a limited features problem. If they don't, and you're getting, Hannah's reported back, like 50, 60% of the trial activation subscribing, we get on average 40%. But if you're getting like 50, 60%, then your product's good enough. And so you don't need to worry about that. Developers continually build new features thinking that the features will drive growth. And I don't feel like it's that. The reason why I go hard paywall is like, is my app a painkiller or a vitamin? Is there a real need for my app idea? If there is, people should activate. If they cancel, then I have a problem with content and providing more content. I'm just like so sickened by the fact that developers would spend $7,000, $10,000 a month on like their development when the app is already good, it has good reviews, there's good content, there's already money coming into the
Mhm.
door. Why are you spending more money on making new features? When I look at your downloads, you need to increase that. When I look at your paywall
Yeah.
activations, you need to increase that. Like, stop wasting money. I don't
If
know.
you've got good retention, work on that paywall. There's a lot of great platforms that you can use now to help you optimize your paywall and do lots of tests on there and move it around to different points in the funnel. They will give you templates. Like, work on those kind of key things before, trying to rebuild, like reinvent the wheel. Should we voice over the onboarding process? I don't see any problem with having that as a toggle. Obviously, I wouldn't have that as a compulsory having to listen, because when we think
Mm,
about people going through onboarding, we think about them, they've just downloaded an app, potentially sat on the toilet or in a meeting or something, and they don't probably want to have a loud, a compulsory loud voice with subscription apps. The majority of all of your trial conversions happen in the first 2 minutes of downloading the app. The first 2 minutes after downloading is within the first 48 hours. So you're able to optimize for things previously that happened within that first 48 hours. So, like a trial, but if you have a 7-day free trial, you wouldn't be able to then see the purchase coming through, like, or the trial conversion, or the potentially a cancellation if that happens after the first 48 hours. Say you're optimizing for install, you would need to get 50 installs attributed to that campaign in the first 7 days. And so let's say your cost, that's £5, so 50
mhm,
times 5 for this test, so you'd get £250 or dollars for the test. Then you divide that by 7, because there's 7 days in a week, obviously, and then that would be your
mhm.
daily budget. So
I see.
250 divided by 7 is 35. So if that was the case, then you would need to spend $35 a day for your campaign to get learnings.